was actually thinking, as he's reading the chaplain's prayer, you know, I probably don't need to say anything else. I think he actually knows. You know, the desire not for power or prestige, but to serve people and the nation. And that line, as I heard that, kind of snapped and said, he knows you pretty well. Done a great job. Hey, Doug, first of all, thanks for allowing me to do this. I know, you know, I don't have a long history with Doug, so I did bring a couple notes. But I have enough to know a little bit. That's kind of the definition of a general officer, I guess. But I do appreciate you allowing me to do this. And when I've been in command just a little less than a year, as we go through the posture session over the spring time frame, is really when I got to know Doug very, very well. And I got to know kind of the characteristics and see how he works with people and the conditions he set and how successful he is. And really a servant leader is what I would tell you. And we were in the cafeteria line between meetings with congressional members. And he just kind of casually said, oh, by the way, you know, General, I'm retiring pretty soon, and you're a busy guy, but maybe if you got some time, maybe you come out here. And he walked away from that dialogue thinking, ain't no way Lyons is showing up. But I wouldn't miss it, to be honest with you. I just wouldn't miss it. I'm happy to be here, and thanks for asking me to do this. It's a real honor to be able to stand here and recognize the service of somebody's, like you, Doug, who's had such an incredible, distinguished career, that's had such an impactful impact on the United States Air Force and our Joint Force. But let me start, though, by recognizing some pretty important people. So, Rob, thank you for being part of this journey. I appreciate it very much. And as I told you walking over, you do have a great reputation amongst the Air Force network. I checked these things out before. I appreciate that. You also had a big impact on the Air Force and the members of the team. And then his dad, Bill, who is a 30-year veteran, United States Air Force. Just an incredible impact. Thank you for shaping Doug's view of this great United States Air Force in a way that he wanted to follow in your footprints. And so thank you very, very much. And his stepmom, Linda, who's had a distinguished career in the United States Army, go Army. There we go. Who had some, blazed some trails of her own coming along in her 30-year career. And thank you, ma'am, for that. And thank you for what you do today. We get a chance to talk about Vision Quest and what you're doing for the youth and all that kind of stuff. But that ethos, right, that continues to serve and continues to give to our community is very powerful. So I'm really grateful for that. Doug's mom is here, Judy, and it's a pleasure actually talking to you and getting to know you up from Atlanta. And stepdad, Gary Miller, who's got some Air Force experience too. And then I don't know, I won't go through the crowd because I don't know all of you, but I think there's somebody here from every single chapter in Doug's career. And I won't go through his entire career because you have it in his bio. But as I looked at his career, it's a very unusual career. But it just underscores how talented and what a great leader he was to continue to make gates in a very unconventional career path. Because when he was commissioned in 1992 from Virginia Tech, every chapter. I think desperately wanted to be a pilot, right? But at the time, as his dad pointed out, at the time the Air Force was downsizing and they didn't need that many pilots. And so he was part of a late-to-rate cohort that wouldn't come to pilot training until late. So he was an intelligence officer first. And then he didn't go from intelligence to being a pilot right away. He went the navigator route. He certified as a navigator. He went to special ops community for a little bit of time. And then he went to pilot training, and then he ended up on the West Coast first out at McCord for I think 4 or 5 years, something like that, flying C-141s and a great C-17. And as an Army guy, as a paratrooper, it's just I love all that, so I appreciate that. And then he did a number of other things, advanced degrees and all that other kind of stuff. And then Worked the Hill for the Headquarters Air Force. And then he would command the 6th Squadron, Airlift Squadron at McGuire. Probably the best job you ever had in the Air Force. You want to talk about having an impact on airmen? Squadron command, I can't imagine anything better. And resonates in my mind today that those great airmen that you impacted back in that day are still out there and are in leadership positions, probably about your grade or about to become your grade based on the impact that you had in their development. And then he went on to command at the group level. I think it was a 436 ops group out of Dover. So he's got C5s in his repertoire as well. And then you came to Transcom, where you've done a great job on the Hill for us, working some complicated issues. I only point that out, and you can read it in his bio. By most people's definitions, as you describe a career like that, and if you really understood the gates of what percentage were actually selected to command or to colonel, I mean, sometimes it's in single digits percentages. Very low numbers make it through that kind of a wicket. So you would say that's a pretty successful career by most people's measure of success. But my sense about Doug, and the reason why I really admire him so much, is that's not his sense of success. It has a lot less to do with rank or position or title than it does with the impact that you can have on people, on airmen, on soldiers, across the joint force. And the willingness to give a little bit more of yourself for a cause that's bigger than yourself. And I think that defines probably the most successful people that I've seen and admired over my career, and had very little to do with rank. Sometimes the most successful people I ever ran into were privates. And Doug's absolutely in that category. And so, Doug, I appreciate all that you have done for the Air Force and the Joint Force. But if you haven't noticed, Rob, they've been married about four and a half years, coming up on an anniversary, I guess. I'm sure they've been together longer than that. There's obstacles as we go along in each of our journeys in life. And how you deal with those obstacles and challenges says a lot about who you are and your commitment to serve. And so our history, frankly, is replete, right, with times when we've marginalized our best and brightest talent because of race or religion or sexual orientation. And so when you're in that circumstance, you really got to want to serve for the right purpose, or you could easily unplug and walk. And in this case, and you've demonstrated, we were long in coming in the integration of gays in the military. And I have to say, I really admire your journey, the strength and perseverance that you've had, the example that you've made to the force, and the impact you've had on the force. And so in the great political debates of the day, right, and if you look back on a couple folks that were, I look back and just a couple years ago to John McCain, when he was still the chairman at the time. He said, hey, we should be guided by the principle that any American who wants to serve our country is able and can meet the standards, should have the opportunity to do so, and be treated as the patriots that they are. And so today's mission, Doug, is to recognize you for your great service and the great patriot that you are. This is a very special culture that we have in the United States military. I think you'll carry that forward, and part of the Air Force will always be in you, and part of you will always be in the Air Force. But if you want to understand the difference, if you go to the private sector and you look at the task of a manager is to sacrifice for people to make their numbers, to make their bottom line. This military culture is fundamentally different. The expectation is that the leaders will sacrifice themselves so they set the conditions for the great airmen. And that's the reputation of Doug Hall, as I know it, as I saw it, And in my research, everybody I talked to that served with you, from juniors to seniors to your peers. And I got a whole list of things that Ryan Samuelson, my XO, who was your late grade partner going to flight school, and he told me you kind of carried him through flight school. You did pretty good, by the way. He's a regular General Select, actually just pinned on frock. I won't go through all this. I think you know that he loves you, the force loves you, we love you, and we appreciate all that you have done for the force, and we will miss having you in this blue uniform, but we do take great pride in knowing that your legacy is long impacting through the many positive ways that you shaped the force and the people, not just the missions that you've accomplished. And so, Doug, with that, we wish you the very, very best in your next chapter. And remember, don't forget where you've come from, and we're very grateful for your service. So thank you very much. And with that, I think we're actually going to do some sort of award ceremony.